Hi there everyone, I've got to remember where the camera is. Russ Douglas 222 here, back in the Brucey Bonus Man Cave. Hey! Bruce and I were out last night and I'll let him tell you about this in a second. But first of all, this is another entirely impartial review. Some high-end thermal kit here for you today, but we're not sponsored by anybody. All this stuff has been very kindly loaned to Bruce for his expert opinion, and he's also been getting the opinion of quite a few friends. Night before last night, and again tonight, out at the quarry before dark and after dark to see what people's actual preferences are. And it's kind of a blind test because he doesn't tell people what they're looking through before they sample it. So I'll spin this round, and there's the 4 scopes. So I'll let Bruce introduce these in a second. So altogether on this plate, we've got 17 grand's worth of kit. So this is seriously high-end kit that the likes of me cannot afford. But there's also a surprise in this video because one of the best scopes here is the cheapest here. So popular opinion, we'll bring that to you in a minute. But thanks for watching, and I'll stop this and hand you over to Bruce.
Okay, this morning we've got 4 thermal scopes on this plate in front of us. They're all 12 micron sensors, which is now becoming the sort of standard pixel pitch on sensors. This at the far end is the Ceptor Pro 55-6 from Night Vision Scopes UK. This is the Rico RH50 from IRay. This is the Raptor X, and this is the IRay RL42. Now the 2 Ricos and the Raptor X have been kindly loaned to me by Ian Blackwood of Blackwood Outdoors, and the Ceptor Pro has been kindly loaned to me by an owner of a Ceptor Pro who's asked to remain anonymous. So we'll say no more about who we got that from, but thank you very much to all of you people who've helped us this, because without your assistance and kindness of loaning us these things, we could never do this test. So as I said, all of these are 12 micron scopes. The Ceptor, the RH50 and the Raptor all have sensors which are 640 by 512 pixels. The RL42 has a sensor which is 384 by 288 pixels. So this is a lower resolution sensor. These 3 here all have the same resolution sensor.
So can you tell me, just excuse me for interrupting, what base mag have they all got for comparison?
Right, the base mag depends basically on number of pixels in the sensor, which defines the physical size of the sensor, and the focal length of the lens. So the Ceptor with a 55mm lens is coming in at about 3.3, somewhere around about there. The RH50 with its 50mm lens is about ×3. The Raptor has a 75mm lens, which gives it a higher magnification, about 4.2. And the RL42, because it's got a 384 by 288 sensor, that means the sensor is physically smaller. So that combined with its 42mm lens actually gives us a magnification of ×4. So there's not a huge difference between them. So you're looking at 3.2, 3.3, 3, 4.2 and 4. So the base magnification is not hugely different. They all have digital zoom.
I was going to say, so they all have germanium lenses,
yep,
and none of them have got optical zoom. So you're limited to digital zoom, yep, and sometimes corresponding pixelation when you push the range a bit.
Yeah, yeah. So the Ceptor has ×2, ×T and ×3 and ×4 digital zoom. Similarly with the Rico is ×2, ×3 and ×4 digital zoom. The Raptor only has ×2 digital zoom. Also, they all have picture-in-picture, where whatever's in the picture-in-picture box is double the magnification of whatever's on the screen. For example, if I take the RL42 for example, with its 4 times base mag, if I go to digital zoom ×4, that means the image on the screen is actually ×16, and within the pit box it's doubled again, which makes it ×32. Now obviously at ×32, the image is not exactly very detailed, but it's there.
Yeah, and I think I'll insert a few images around about here, or taken with my trusty phone through the lens. And last night the Rico RL42 was the only one, when I took my snaps, that had the picture-in-picture on. So I'll slip a few photos on screen for that.
But they all have picture-in-picture mode, and on the Ricos and the T-Sep, a single button press gets the pip going on and off.
Brilliant.
With a Raptor, it's a bit harder. You've got to dig into the menu to get the pip to come on. And I think, as we mentioned in our earlier review of this, that it doesn't default to on either. You've got to do that every time you switch it on.
Yeah, and when we did the full review of the Raptor X, you mentioned Ian Blackwood was hoping for
some sort of firmware
updates to improve the smoothness of the menu access.
That as far as I'm aware, that has not yet happened.
Right.
Okay. I have to say that we reviewed the Raptor in isolation. There were no other scopes, and when we looked at it, it was good.
Yeah.
But against these, it doesn't quite stand up as well.
Well, that's just honest review.
That's right. And that's just not my opinion. I think you felt the same last night when we were doing field testing, and the other two people had last night who were out looking at also had the same opinion.
So last night it was the honest opinion of all four of us, three of whom, including Bruce here, are all Fox shooters, and Bruce has got a little overall conclusion for you.
These are what I would call fairly high-end thermal scopes. They're all designed for long-range use. These are the type of scopes that somebody who's into fox shooting, long-range fox shooting, would be considering. And irrespective of the detail differences between them, all of them are more than capable of being used to shoot foxes beyond 200 yards. So you can spot, identify and shoot foxes in excess of 200 yards with any of these four scopes.
Right.
If I was told you've got to go and shoot foxes, here's any one of these four scopes would do the job.
Brilliant.
Now there's always personal preference. If I had my choice and my funds were unlimited, which one would I choose to do it with? Then fine, that's kind of what we're going to come to. But the bottom line is that if you want to shoot long-range foxes, any of these four scopes will do the job perfectly well.
Right, and what's the sort of price are we looking at just across the board?
Well, the price ranges from, because this has got a 384x288 sensor, it's cheaper than the three scopes with the 640 sensors. I'll give you list prices, okay? List price on the RL42 is 2995. List price on the Raptor is 4890. List price on the RH50 is about 4,300, and list price on the T-Ceptor is 5,100.
Right.
Now, I know that there are discounts available, but anybody who wanted to approach the seller would have to negotiate a discount for themselves. Yeah. So roughly in terms of scale, the RL42 is essentially almost half the cost
of the T-Ceptor.
Yeah, given the discounts, I'm fairly aware of what's available. The RL42 is coming in at roughly half the price of the T-Ceptor. The other features the scopes have, both the Ricos have onboard recording with 32 gig of memory, and they have Wi-Fi, and they have app support, and the app is quite good. I've tried the app. There's not much lag. You can record with the app, and the image on my phone was excellent. You can't control any functions of the scope from the app, which you can with some other apps. Right. But say it's the app is perfectly acceptable.
So the app is for passive observing.
Yeah, exactly. We tested a guide track IR and hooked up to the guide app, and the guide app is better. It's a faster, more responsive app. Plus, it allows you to actually control functions of the scope. Right. Okay. The IRay app doesn't allow you to do that, but it's perfectly acceptable. If somebody had this scope on their rifle and somebody else wanted to see what was going on, then hooking up to the scope with Wi-Fi would give that person with the phone or a tablet a perfectly good image of what the shooter was seeing. Right. Okay. Neither the T-Ceptor nor the Raptor have Wi-Fi or onboard recording. They both have analog video out. And we know from our experience with the Raptor that hooking up an external video recorder does not give a great result.
No. And
there are videos of the T-Ceptor on YouTube by Clive Ward from Night Vision Scopes, who makes these, and he used the same video recorder as I used. It's a Lawmate, and you see the same issues, depending on if you're lucky or unlucky because of how the video recorder picks up the signal. It often chops off the horizontal axis of the reticle and stuff like that, and the video quality is poor.
Yeah. So for all these thermal scopes, the best way to try these is go to a dealer and have a look through them. By far. There are lots of videos out there. Unfortunately, we weren't able to record from 2 of these last night, but Bruce is going to get footage of through the 2 Ricos, and he's going to see if he can get any footage via a mobile phone holder on the back of the Brucey bonus plate. He's going to see if he can get some footage through the other 2 for comparative purposes, because the best view by far is through the eyepiece.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, next thing here which is important is batteries. The Ceptor and the Raptor both run from single 18650s, which is always a great advantage.
That's perfect, yeah.
Perfect. You can see the battery holder here on the Raptor and the battery holder here on the Ceptor. Simple, easy. You can always carry a spare battery. I'll turn the plate around a bit, and I'll tell you what, this is actually the battery this is the battery that the Ricos use. They both use the same battery.
Right.
It fits in at the side here. It's got a locking mechanism that locks it in place.
Okay.
It comes with a charger, and it comes with this cable, which connects to any USB power pack.
Right.
Plugs into the charger, and you can charge the battery, or you can plug the cable right into the connector on the scope.
Right. And
Power
the scope.
You could power the scope from a power bank. That cable does a couple of things. When you plug it in, you can download video that you've recorded on the scope down into a computer using the USB connector.
And what's on board storage did you say the Ricos have got?
32 gig.
Brilliant.
Which is a lot.
Yeah.
I think it's set up for 5-minute videos on a loop.
Okay.
So it records for 5 minutes, saves that file, starts a new file, another 5 minutes.
Okay, yeah.
It's also got this analog out connector, which you can connect to DVR, but as I said, no. And in fact, I did try it on the Ricos, and when you do that, you get the image, but you don't get any screen information, and in fact, you don't even see when you've zoomed.
Oh, right.
You can hit the zoom button, and it doesn't change the image, what you see on the screen.
The video out is raw with nothing.
Raw straight off a sensor.
Right. Okay.
Because you're not seeing reticle, you're not seeing any on-screen icons, and you don't even see when you digitally zoom.
Right.
So I really can't recommend using this as a method for recording or displaying what the scope is seeing. Go using the Wi-Fi is the way to go.
Yeah.
And then if you've recorded, then simply download your recordings using the USB cable.
Right.
And then you can do what you want with your recordings after that.
Yeah. Okay.
As the battery life seems to be okay. One advantage of the RL42 is that it comes with 2 battery packs, and the battery packs are about £80 each.
80.
Yep.
Right.
So getting a scope with 2 battery packs is definitely an advantage over getting one with just one, which is, as I understand it, the RH50 just comes with 1 battery pack.
Right.
But the RL42 comes with 2.
Just want to say something before I forget. Our apologies that we don't have, for completeness and thoroughness, a pulsar thermal with us for this 4-way review, but we couldn't get everything all at once. We'll bring you more comparative reviews as soon as we can. Yeah. If we had a Brucey bonus 5-way plate, then a pulsar.
Well,
for completeness.
if we'd had a bit more time, Ian Blackwood, who kindly lent us the Raptor and the 2 Ricos, does have a new Pulsar Thermion XP2, which I'm hopefully going to get a loan of.
Thanks,
maybe next month sometime.
Brilliant.
And we can do a review of that, and he's raving about it at the moment.
Right.
Unfortunately, it would be nice to have it alongside, but we're not going to be able to do that, so we're going to have to try to remember what we liked and then do the comparison.
Well, we'll have the video. So.
Well, yeah, okay. Right, getting back to these scopes, I must admit, the Ricos also come with a rather good mount. I'm going to detach it here, and it's quite good because you just press the buttons at that side, flick these clips open, and off it comes. Right,
that's a little bit like the inner mount then.
Yeah, it's a bit like an inner mount, and that's included with the scope. Right. And it's a well-made, it's a hefty scope, hefty mount. It's solid. Right.
Excellent. Looks well engineered, yeah.
It does look well engineered. It's quick release, although I did have a bit of a fanning around getting it go back onto the plate, but. Okay. The Raptor comes with a mount as well, and it's bolt. You've got to bolt that onto the rail. That's no big deal. That Rico is the same as this Rico, and the Ceptor. It comes with a pulsar mount. Although I believe that you can buy an inno mount,
Okay.
which is a bit. My slight concern with this is it's not that particularly set back that far,
Right. Okay.
and you can't come back any further
because of this obstruction here on the rail.
That's right.
Okay.
So this is a pulsar mount, which was designed for the pulsar trails. It wasn't designed for this scope, but you can buy an inno mount, a longer inno mount that would allow you to get the scope further back on the rifle if you needed to.
Shooters need more of a reach back.
Yeah. That's what you get with this one. I mean, I think for most people, the rail that comes supplied with it will probably be okay.
Yeah.
But there might be some people who feel that they need to have the scope a bit further back, and they would need to spend the extra money on the inno mount.
Right. So there are options available if we need to. So one other observation, if you don't mind me chipping in, I see that all four have got various different lengths of Picatinny rail on the side.
Yeah.
One slot on the Ceptor Pro.
Yep. It's 1, 2, 3 slots in the Raptor and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the Ricos. Now there is available for the Ricos an external rangefinder which clips onto here and then by a short cable plugs into the USB port, which then displays the range in the eyepiece.
Ah, that's brilliant.
The rangefinder's pretty expensive. I think it's about bloody 400 quid.
Right.
And Ian Blackwood tells me that he's tried it and he says it's okay. It's not wonderful, but it's okay. There's an alignment process you have to go through, obviously. When you clamp the rangefinder on here and plug it in, then it's a bit like the ATN rangefinder. You have to basically tell the scope where the rangefinder's firing at. You then need to know where to put a mark on the display on the target to get the range, because it generally speaking will not be pinging at the reticle. Right. Same as the parts.
But the parts have the advantage that
you can see the flash.
Laser splash.
But with the thermal you can't.
No.
I think actually the rangefinder comes with a little red dot laser that's coaxial with a rangefinder laser, so that you can physically see the red dot and line up the laser red dot with what you're looking at in the reticle scope. Okay. I think that's how you do it. I haven't done it, but I think that's how it's done. Okay. Brilliant. So there is a rangefinder available for the Ricos, which will display the range directly on the display. Okay, brilliant. There are, as far as I'm aware, there's nothing like that available for either the Raptor or the Ceptor.
Thanks for the brief rundown, and Bruce is now going to take us through his findings and everyone's opinions from last night's four-way thermal comparison out at one of his permissions. So back over to Bruce.
Thanks, Ross. Well, let me step back a bit, because when we were planning this four-way test, I thought it important that not just be my opinion, or not even just Russ and I's opinions. We wanted as many people as possible to see these scopes and give us their unbiased opinion, without being told what make, model of scope were, what price they were. I just wanted people to come and look at them and say, oh, I like that one better than that one, better than that one.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what we did last night was we had two friends that we know who both got some experience with thermals. They're not complete novices. We didn't tell them what the scopes were. We set them up exactly as they're here. We took them to my permission for it, which is an area where you can overlook a field with some trees in the distance. You've probably seen it in some of our previous videos. It's great because you can see rabbits, you can see roe deer and things like that, and you can play around with the thermals. We started this after the sun went down, but before it was properly dark. Yeah. And we let them look at them all in white hot, and then we changed them to black hot, let them look again in black hot, and then we stopped because it was getting cold, went into the car and sat until it became really much darker, properly dark. Then went back out again and let them look again in white hot and black hot. And at the end of that process, asked them to give each scope a score out of 10. Okay, and a couple of interesting things came up. Was that both Russ and I agreed that our order of preference was first the Ceptor, second the RL42, and for me both of these were about the same. Yeah, but I think I was the RH50. You preferred that over that. That was that was your first choice. Yeah. That was your second choice. Yeah. That was your third choice. Yeah. That was your last choice. Yeah. Okay. I was 1, 2, and I'm not really worried about these two, because they were both around about the same. Right. What really was interesting, the two other guys who were with us both thought the RL42 was the best. Yeah. Now, having said that, once it got properly dark, one of them changed his mind and said, after dark, the T-Ceptor was the image that he preferred.
Yes.
So, but what was interesting was that this cheap scope keeps popping up as either being the first choice or second choice.
Yes.
Out of the 4 people. And tonight, I'm hoping to have maybe another 6 or 8 people and go through the same process. So with a bit of luck, we'll have maybe 10 or 12 separate independent opinions. So you're not just getting what Russ and I think about these scopes, you're getting independent views from people who really are not as nerdy as you and I are about scopes. And I think that way we'll get a more balanced opinion on overall as to what people like. And we won't tell them how much the stuff costs. We'll tell them at the end.
Yeah.
But after they've given us their judgment, we'll tell them what the prices are. And again, I'm expecting this RL42 to do well again.
Yes. One thing I'd like to say, Mike, who from Ithenbank Field Sports Supplies. Hi, Mike. Thanks for coming along, giving your opinions. It was Mike who changed his preference after dark
from this one to that one.
From the RL42 to the Ceptor Pro, and we all commented that the Ceptor Pro has a greenish tinge. I'll pop the image, the mobile phone image, the cheap and cheerful image on the screen. So this has got a greenish tinge. And I commented, with Mike being ex-forces, I said, are you straight away reminiscing about the old Starlight scopes? And he said, yeah, that was the one. Because Mike's basically at home with a Starlight scope and a 7.62, you know, 308. So on an SLR or a Jimpy. So Mike really liked the greenish tinge. I felt the greenish tinge was a little bit pale, but it was very smooth and it was very gentle on the eyes, wasn't it?
That was what I liked about it. I liked the smoothness and the viewability, as you might call it, of the image on the T-Ceptor. Yeah. It was relaxing.
Yes.
It was a relaxing image to watch, whereas the Ricos punch you in the face with the contrast. Yes. I mean, I think perhaps the Ricos have got a lot of contrast in the image. The Raptor is a bit flat for me now.
By comparison.
I mean, it was good. First time I looked at it, first time I thought I liked it, but comparing with the other 3, it's really quite flat.
Am I right in saying that, particularly the Ricos, the contrast is quite sharp and a little bit harsh at times?
And there's no contrast adjustment.
Right, that's a bit of flaw. There is no contrast adjustment on these 2 fellas. This reminds me of the Sightmark Wraith. To me, when the reticle's on, it's really bright, it's really in your face, and it's whether it's white, red, whatever, it dominates the view, and you're trying to look at the fox beyond the crosshairs or the bunnies or whatever. That's what we found here.
Yep.
So you'll see from the images I'll have shown by now, and I'll show again, the 2 Ricos, the reticle's a bit harsh, a bit in your face.
Well, particularly the RH50, because I had to go to the black reticle with the white little cross in the centre to be able to handle the image.
Yes.
Because with the full white reticle, it glowed.
Yes.
The reticle glows, and it basically, you not blow out the rest of the screen, but
it
dominates the screen totally.
Right.
And if you've got a brightness control, and if you turn the brightness control down to the level where the reticle's okay, your background is gone. You've got no image. You've got no definition.
So you have no individual reticle brightness.
No.
It's brightness on these 2 for the
whole thing.
All or nothing.
That's the one thing the Raptor has. It's got separate reticle brightness control. Yeah. None of the other scopes have that. Right. But the Rico's got no direct. It's got they don't call it contrast, and it isn't contrast. It's like an edge sharpness control. And when you screw that up, it puts a halo around the objects. Personally, I don't like that. It's got this ultra clear mode as well, but that really only gives you a benefit in poor thermal conditions. Yeah, and last night the thermal conditions were perfectly good. You would be no benefit from it.
But it would do perfectly good.
Yeah,
So the ultra clear mode is what the same scopes have got. Yeah.
Exactly.
We've previously reviewed.
The Ricos and the Sames have got this ultra clear mode. I think basically they're using the same signal processing in most of the Sames and the Ricos. The harshness or the high contrast to me was worse on the 50 than it was in the 42. Mm-hmm. The 42 kind of gets away with it. Yeah. The other thing I found with the 50 was that it seemed to operate and give you a decent image over a very, very, very narrow temperature band. If I was looking at the field in front of the trees we had last night,
Yeah.
if I had that as a good contrasty image, when I moved closer, it got black, or if I went to the trees, it got white. Or if I went to the trees and got a nice contrasty image, and I went down into the field, it was black.
Yeah.
Whereas with the 42, I was getting uniform contrast throughout the whole image.
Yeah.
And that's basically the same scope with the same processing. So I don't understand why it is, but that was a much more usable image. The 42 was a much more usable image than the 50 for me.
Yeah.
And I think that was why it was so popular, because it didn't matter what you did, you know, up, down, right, left, it was always giving you a usable image.
Yes.
Whereas this one, you were hunting about the place trying to get it adjusted so you can get a decent picture out of it.
Right,
Plus
okay.
the white reticle was kind of just overwhelming.
Yeah. So we've covered batteries, we've covered mounts, Picatinny rail accessories. We've covered sort of general battery packs. They've all got a focus knob.
Yep.
On top.
Yep. They all focus very nicely, no problem at all.
Right.
The Raptor's got a click action focus, but
So that's slightly stepped, but it's.
But they're all perfectly easy. They're not too stiff, not too slack.
Right.
No issues there.
Excellent.
Obviously, they all use different menu systems, right? Different combinations of buttons to get it to do. And that kind of was doing my head in a bit last night, because I've got three different. The two Ricos are obviously, they use the same menu system. So you've got three different menu systems and remembering which button to press. So there was a bit of swearing last night, which is.
We didn't make it easy for you, did we?
No. Well, I was, because I'd used them all and you guys had no experience, I was trying to set them up to let you see what they did. And because I was kind of struggling to remember what key buttons to press, the T-Ceptor's quite funny. It's got three buttons in the top. The middle button brings up the menu. The up and down buttons allow you to move through the menu, but when you want to select a menu item, you've got to press the on-off button down here.
Oh, right.
And that highlights the menu item you've chosen.
Right.
Then you use the up and down buttons to change the values within the menu.
Right, okay.
And then you've got to press the menu button to get out of that.
Yeah.
But the trouble is, you keep forgetting when you select, when you get to the menu item you want to change, you've got to keep remembering.
A button over here.
You've got the button down here to press to get that highlighted.
Right. So
Plus, it's a pictogram menu as opposed to a verbal menu.
So what I'm just going to interrupt for a second. If I can turn this around slightly, so we have this Ceptor Pro. So we have this Ceptor Pro. Now this is a comparative review, people. So, but what Bruce was just explaining, we've got the center selection menu button, up and down. If I just show you, just about see the colours there, up and down. But what he's saying is to actually select the buttons on the side here. So you're fiddling with these buttons mostly, but then your actual selection is on the side here.
And that's also the on-off button.
Oh, right, okay. Right, nothing confusing there then. So we're going to try at some point this Ceptor Pro. We basically all thought this was the dogs last night.
Yeah.
It was the best by far. Amazing image quality. And there's some quirky things we'll discuss in a second with the reticle. But this being a comparative review, we're not going to do a full review of this right now. We've previously done a full review of the Raptor X, but this is now a comparative review while Bruce has briefly got all four scopes together. Okay?
Yeah,
Just wanted to say
the T-Ceptor has one really neat trick with the reticle. The T-Ceptor has a really neat trick which I appreciate when it comes to the reticle. As somebody who's been shooting foxes with thermal scopes for quite a long time, and I like to shoot in white hot as opposed to black hot, my thermal scope, I can't change the reticle colour. It's only white.
Right.
Okay? So I'm trying to shoot a fox, trying to put a white reticle onto a white target.
Yeah.
Now I've learned how to do that. I can do that, and it's not a problem. But a lot of people don't like that. Yeah. And some of my pals who sometimes shoot with me, I always have to put the scope into black hot for them to shoot, so they can have a white reticle against a black target. Yeah. And I totally understand that. Yeah. Right? Most people would prefer that. Just me being a weirdo. However, what the Ceptor does is, if you set the reticle in auto mode, right, the reticle will automatically change from white to black or black to white depending on the colour of the target, whether it's white hot or black hot. Right. So if you're shooting in white hot and your target is white, the reticle or any portion of the reticle that's over the target will change to be black.
Yeah, no, I thought this was a fantastic thing. And I thought you meant that the reticle is whatever colour you selected, but just the centre cross would change. But it really, Bruce, you see in the footage, but this really does mean that individual pixels of anywhere in the whole of the reticle will flicker and change, which takes some getting used to.
I mean, yeah, for sure. But it does allow you to I mean, if you're looking at putting the centre little cross onto the target, and you're in white hot, you know that centre cross has got to be black. You can accurately position your point of aim on the target because they're now contrasting colours. And I don't know how they do it, but it's a clever damn trick. And you can set the reticle to be always white or always black. But this automatic mode where it changes automatically is a neat trick, and I think a lot of people would appreciate that.
I think if I won the lottery and bought one of these, I'd want there to be an option of make just the centre cross changing like this, because the rest of it.
Well,
it's almost like a fairground thing. It's a bit of a distraction.
Well, I think perhaps we didn't show you all the reticle options last night.
Right.
There is a reticle option, and it was the option chosen when I got the scope for just basically a single white dot in the centre.
Right. Okay.
That's your aiming point. So that would change colour.
Right.
That would be the only thing that would change colour when you were, if you are in automatic. But I just like to just prefer a T-shaped reticle.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You and me both. That's how I have the reticle on both.
But if you wanted something like you want, which is only to have one thing changing colour rather than it flickering changing colours as you move across the target, then if you go for like the single dot or a single very small cross option, then that would happen. As soon as you got on the target, it would be the contrasting colour to whatever you've got, whatever your target is. The T-Scepter also has more colour modes than I've ever seen before. Really bright and gary. I'm not a big lover of colour modes, but it's got about 3 different colour modes. And they're strong colours. So
have they all got picture-in-picture?
They've all got picture-in-picture.
Magnification.
They've all got digital zoom.
Was anything stand out last night about the digital zoom about them all?
No. Oh, the Ricos, the reticles are all scalable.
Right, first focal plane reticles.
Yeah, and what was noticeable, particularly in the RL42, is that the reticle in base magnification had subtensions, obviously. But as you increase the digital zoom, more subtensions appear.
Yes, finer ones.
Finer subtensions, which is quite a neat trick.
Yeah, that's
I quite like that.
Because if they were all visible all the time, it would be an absolute forest of.
Yeah, that's right. And if they didn't add extra subtensions, the gaps would become so big that you would be difficult to actually select what's your aiming point.
Yes.
So with the additional subtensions appearing, then it maintains the sort of level of detail you can put.
As you zoom and the first focal plane reticles, the subtensions appear. Are they numbered at all?
No, there are no numbers. No.
Right. Okay.
No. And the Ricos, if you've got a white reticle, the centre cross is the opposite colour. So if you've got a white main reticle, the very centre will be black, and vice versa. If the reticle outside is black, the very centre cross is white. And that's what I had to use in the RH50 because the white reticle is so bright, and the red one and the green one as well. I went to the black reticle with just a little white cross. Now the trouble was, most of the time I couldn't see anything of the reticle other than the little white cross.
Yeah.
So as I say, this is much. The list price in this is 3. List price in that is 4.3. There's £1,300 of difference. This is a better scope.
Yeah.
You know, this for me just does the job better than that. This, I'll be honest with you, and I'm sorry, this was a bit of a disappointment to me.
Well, you've just been honest.
You know, I thought it should have been better than that. These are the 2 outright best scopes here. Yeah, in my mind, no doubt about that whatsoever.
So the lowest price scope.
Best value for money by far.
Yeah.
Best image by far.
Right. Okay. But also, interestingly, all of them are capable of taking foxes out. Identify.
And shoot.
Spot, identify, and shoot foxes out to 200 yards.
That's right.
And more, but out to 200, all of them. And you mentioned that this, although this is the best image of the lot, this one you could afford scope, the mounts, the rifle, everything for the price of one of these.
Pretty much so, yeah.
So this one is a rich man's game.
Yeah, it's a top end. It's a top end scope. There's no doubt about that. For the people who buy Swarovski scopes, when a Delta will do just as well, you know, it's kind of that comparison. Yeah. You know, this is a Delta and that's a Swarovski. You know what I mean?
Right.
This really is a good bit of kit. You know.
Yeah.
But this does the job. It's not costing anything like as much money. And as I said, if you wanted to get into long range foxing, you could buy one of these and a rifle and a moderator and quite a lot of ammunition for the same amount of money you would pay for that. Yeah. So, but hey, it's your hobby. People spend a lot of money in their hobby.
Oh yeah.
And if that's what they want to do, if I was buying a new thermal scope and I had the money, I'd have one of them.
Yeah, I mean, and if you're a gamekeeper who's relying on this for maintenance of your property, then if you got the money, then you'd get this one, wouldn't you?
Yeah. I'd have to say build quality on all of them looks pretty good.
Yes.
These are built in Belarusia by a company called Electro-Optic.
Okay.
Clearly got some military. There's clearly some military vibe going on here.
Some military genes, yes.
The sensors in all of them, I believe, well, clearly the IRay, the company that make the IRay scopes, own a company called InfiSense, who make sensors.
Right.
And it's InfiSense sensors that are in here. Now, strangely, when I opened the box for this one, I found a quality control sticker from InfiSense. So my strong suspicion is that the Ceptor has a sensor made by the same company that makes the sensors in the IRay.
Right.
And again, although I don't know for the Raptor, there's a couple of things about the image in the menu that make me think it's also a sensor made by InfiSense as well. But but the strange, although all the sensors are coming from the same manufacturer, the way that the signals are processed to produce the final image produces a totally different image.
Yes.
That's what's noticeable, is that you've got a sensor basically the same, yet the images are so different in terms of how they appear to the eye and how your brain kind of views them. You know, this is so smooth and relaxing. These two, I always say, it's like somebody's punching you in the face. There's so much contrast.
They're so harsh. It's such a shame with the Ricos that
they don't have decent contrast control.
No, and particularly that you can't change the brightness of the reticles aside from the brightness of the background.
Well, you can't change the brightness of the reticle on this one, but it's in tune with the brightness of the display. You don't need separate brightness control.
No, you don't.
But on these two, you get away with it on this one. You just don't get away with it on the 50.
Right.
I can forgive it this one because it's a cheaper scope, and it just seems to work better. But on the 50, no. I mean, when I put that white reticle on last night, everyone went, oh, I'm blind, didn't you? It was horrible.
And to think, so that's how much is this one? This is
2,995, but you would get some discount off of that.
Right.
I would think you'd be looking at about maybe 10% discount off of that.
Okay.
I think you should be looking to get 10% discount off all of them. But that's my personal opinion. That would be down to individuals' negotiating skills.
Yeah. So they're all supplied by...
Well, these three are supplied by Blackwood Outdoors.
Yeah.
And if you want to buy one of these, you've got to go to Night Vision store. The company that owns the Night Vision store is now called Night Vision Stores, Clive Ward.
Right.
He imports these. So that's really where they come from.
For amazing scopes. If I could afford any one of these, I'd be very happy to use it. Especially the Rico RH42. Is it
RL42.
RL42. That image was brilliant. But if you win the lottery, you'd be after the Ceptor Pro because it's just outstanding.
That's the 55.6. They do a 55.3 as well with the 384 sensor, which will have a bit more magnification.
Right.
But this is the top of the range one, the 55.6.
Yeah, this was outstanding.
Well, up until I got my hands on this, people have been asking me, which thermal scope should I buy? Best bang for your buck. And I had been strongly believing that the Pulsar Thermion XQ50 was the best value for money in terms of what you paid and what you got.
Yeah.
This has taken over from that.
Right, okay.
This to me represents better value for money than, I mean, the XQ50 is still a good scope, and there's now the XQ52 is coming out, which is a more sensitive sensor, and it may be that it's better than this again, but at the moment, what this gives you in terms of the scope, the mount, 2 batteries, this is a better package.
Yeah. Bruce and I are just going through the features we've mentioned and making sure we've not missed anything out. I have to say that the Ceptor Pro 55.6 on the screen, while you're using this fella, in the top right hand corner of the screen up here, there's a almost cartoony like battery indicator, which is a bit surprising.
There's 15 menu items, 3 per page, 5 pages.
Right.
And they are also rather cartoony.
Yeah. Okay, so is this pictogram things?
It's totally pictograms.
It's all pictogram menu, and I'll see if I can get some images of this, and I'll create an accompanying Flickr album, which I'll put a link to down below the video. So there'll be a Flickr album with images like this, and some images from last night, and some images from today, to give you links to where you can get the kit, and links to any other information we've got. Okay.
Now, the one thing I should say is I have not had any of these scopes in a rifle. I have not gone through the zeroing process, so I can't comment on how easy they are to zero or how well they hold zero.
Right. Okay.
I just don't have the time to do that.
No.
Okay.
But these scopes have all. Thank you very much to the private individual who owns this fella, and to Ian Blackwood from Blackwood Outdoors for the loan of the other 3. We've obviously had these. We've had to wait till we had all 4 together for the comparative honest review, and these have got to go back in a few days. So very grateful to Bruce for his time. Thanks, Bruce. And he's been his time the last 2 evenings and tonight asking other people's opinions, and then he's very kindly going to see if he can get some through scope footage on them all to show us as much as possible. And the one thing I really want to see, if you can get some footage of, please, if you can, is of that changing reticle.
Oh yeah, okay.
That's something else. I've never seen anything like that. Sounds amazing, and I love the idea of the center cross changing white or black depending on what whether you got white or black hot. But when I actually looked through it, my face lit up when you told me about this feature. But when I looked through it, and the whole of the reticle, whichever style you've gone for, sort of flickers and changes depending on the background, so it's always contrasting. So it's
done on a pixel by pixel basis.
A bit of a head explode, yeah. So yeah, but individual pixels are changing.
Basically, the computer looks at whether the thing that you're looking at is white hot or black hot, and it changes the pixel for the reticle to the opposite.
It flips, yeah.
And it continually does that as you move the scope around. And
it's a hell of a thing, isn't it?
It's a hell of a thing.
Right.
I'd never seen it. I knew it was there because I'd seen Clive Ward had mentioned it, and I'd seen it on some of the YouTube videos he put up, and so I knew it was there. But I'd never. It was when I tried it. The funny thing was last night when we did this first, when it wasn't fully dark, it didn't work.
Right.
It wasn't until we went out again after it got dark.
Yeah.
That there was a big enough contrast between hot things and cold things that actually started to make it work.
Right.
Because I was trying to show everybody when we were out there first. And
that's interesting.
But and it was also interesting that when we were there at first, that one person, Mike, picked this as his choice, but then changed his mind after it got dark.
Yes.
Because the amount of ambient
heat, yeah.
The ambient heat. This did not look as good when there was still some daylight around. It wasn't until it got really dark that this thing really, really showed its.
Yeah.
Because these two are so high contrast, they can cope with that extra bit of heat before it gets dark.
Yeah.
But so they didn't really change much after it got properly dark.
No.
But this one got better after it got properly dark.
Yeah, it got a lot better. Yeah.
Yeah.
So. I'll include links down below to where we got all the kit, and to Blackwood Outdoors, and to the night vision store, and I'll also include links to UK Night Vision Forum, which has got a thermal section, and Bruce is Phoenix, on the Night Vision forum and Russ Douglas 222, obviously. And I'll also include a link to the Thermal Hunting forum, which is an international forum. So hi to everyone on the forum, and there'll be lots more content coming as soon as possible. And thanks very much again to Bruce for your time. Awesome stuff. Thanks, Bruce. Thanks for your expertise, and thanks for setting up this last night. The availability of all 4 scopes, your time at the expertise, getting all this sorted. Thank you very much, Bruce.
It's a labour of love.
Awesome. Thanks, Bruce.
Okay, no problem. Thanks, guys.